You guys, this is an exciting day for me because I'm finally getting to try out the liquid foundation version of one of my favorite cushion foundations of all time. If you've not heard of Hera's Black Cushion and you are a cushion foundation fan, you need to sit up and take note. This is one of the few formulas on the market that really delivers on that long wear promise. Most of the other long wear cushion foundations I've tried are just subpar. It feels like they were formulated with really cold and dry climates in mind. It feels like they were not formulated for really oily, congested skin. They're just a little bit too glowy to really be matte or pore blurring, whereas this just really delivers. So when I first heard that they were coming up with a liquid foundation version, I was kind of excited, but at the same time I was wondering, why come out with this one if this already works? But the thing is, not everyone likes a cushion foundation format. And it's not a stretch to imagine that a liquid formula that's in a tube like this would possibly be more matte and also longer wearing than a cushion formula, because these do need to stay liquid. They need to stay emollient so they don't clog up and dry in the sponge. Whereas for a lot of long wear matte oil control foundations, they do tend to set and dry down very quickly, so you wouldn't be able to put that in a compact like this. So if you happen to have very oily skin or you prefer a slightly more matte finish than even this can provide, this looks really promising. With the cushion, there are only a few shades available and only a neutral skin tone. So you get a 21, 23, 25, etc. And I'm using 23 neutral. Now the foundation comes in 12 shades. I do need to point out that the shades still only come in a fair to medium skin tone. The expansion is more in terms of the undertones available. So say for the shade 23, in the cushion form, you only have one neutral tone, whereas for 23 in the liquid foundation, you have a cool tone, 23C, you have a warm tone, 23W, which is what I'm testing out today, and there's also a 23N for neutral undertones. So while I applaud them for coming out with different undertones, which is really important when you're wearing high coverage foundation, because something that's just a little bit off is going to look really obvious against your neck. It's not like they are being more inclusive of tan to deeper skin tones. Now, my cushion comes in a special limited edition case from the holidays last year. The regular black cushion is a little bit more plain than this one, but it comes with a standard application puff and also the cushion inside. The box does also contain an extra refill sponge, so you are getting 1 ounce of product for Singapore $75. Black foundation also comes in a 1 ounce tube, and this has a very hygienic and convenient pump to dispense product. This is also priced at 75 Singapore dollars, which is exactly the same as the cushion. Texture-wise, the cushion is quite fluid and it's pretty lightweight but also quite high coverage. This is also very buildable like most Korean cushion foundations. One thing you need to take note of is that the cushion formula does come off a lot lighter while it is not dried down, and it will change shades once it sets. So give it some time if you are swatching this in store and trying to find your match. The liquid foundation formula is just slightly thicker in texture than the cushion formula. Of course, you can see that this shade is a slightly warmer undertone than the one I have in the cushion, which is more neutral. And the liquid foundation is also a little bit closer to the final shade it is when it dries down. So there is not so much of a huge change. I know, I'm looking real glamorous right now. So I'm gonna go in with the cushion foundation on this side of my face, and I'll just be using the puff that comes in my cushion compact. So I consider this sort of a medium buildable coverage, low sheen, but very perfecting and pore blurring. There is a good reason that this is Hera's bestseller, and it's pretty much got a cult status now in terms of long-wearing cushion formulations. Because most of the other ones that I've tried, even when they say they're long-wearing and matte, are not really matte, nowhere close. I'm gonna go in with black foundation on the other side of my face. The tones might be slightly different because instead of getting a neutral color, I got talked into the warm one. And then when I got back and I tested it on my face and realized I should have just tested it on my neck and made the decision myself, because they were guessing based on the skin on my hand, and we all know how accurate that is. Very instant coverage as well. The liquid foundation also does set slightly deeper after it dries down, but not as much as the cushion, so you can more or less gauge what shade is correct or accurate for you just by swiping it on your jaw and maybe waiting for half a minute at most. With the cushion, I would say give it a little bit more time to set. Because this is a sort of a liquid to cream texture, it's pretty easy to build up coverage very precisely in areas where you need more. For cushions, obviously cushions are mostly very buildable as well. The thing is, it's very hard to be precise because they go on in very thin layers. So if you really just want to build up coverage in a very, very small area of your face or on spots, you would get better results doing it with the liquid foundation. Of course, in my experience with my slightly normal dry skin, I do find that if I try to build up matte foundations like this one a little bit too much, it starts to look a bit heavy and cakey, whereas for cushion formulas, they tend to layer and layer without looking too fake or too much like makeup, if that makes sense. Here's the coverage, black foundation versus black cushion. Obviously, with the cushion side, I feel there's a little bit more of a radiance or glow to it. Even though they both have a semi-matte texture, I feel the black foundation does not bounce as much light off the face. Not that it's weird looking or unnatural looking. It does have some reflectiveness to it. It's not a flat, powdery matte, which I like. You may also want to take note of the fact that the cushion foundation is SPF 34 and the liquid foundation is SPF 15. So if you're taking flash photography or just in general, if you have very bright lights pointing at your face, the cushion will come off just slightly paler than the foundation, even if they sort of look the same in real life. Okay, I have just applied concealer over it. It's relatively easy to blend concealer on top of these. Strangely enough, I find it slightly easier to blend out concealer on top of the Hera Black foundation. On the black cushion, there is a slight tackiness, you know, that grip when foundation's set, and then sometimes concealer doesn't want to blend out as easily on top of it. I felt that more with this side, even though they are both supposed to be long wear formulas, and this promises to be a 24-hour wear foundation. I wasn't expecting this to have less grip than the cushion. Just an interesting point to note, not a big deal. Okay, final look at the skin before I go off and do the rest of my makeup. I do have a little bit of powder bronzer, a little bit of blush on, no highlighter yet. Obviously the cushion side is going to give you a little bit more of that luminosity, but neither side is tacky feeling on the skin. It's not a dewiness that is sticky. So if you have oily skin, I've said this many times when people ask me about the best cushion recommendation for humid weather or very oily skin, and I always say try Black Cushion first because I was just really impressed with it the very first time I tried it last year, and I'm still impressed with it even with all the new formulations that have come out since then. Okay, it's been about 1.5 hours since I first applied both of the formulas, and I think just touch-wise, this side of my face where the cushion is a little bit more hydrated, which is better for me with my normal dry skin, but if you have oily skin, then you may prefer the liquid foundation. It is a bit more velvety, a bit more matte. In a strange sense, I feel like Hera did a pretty good job in coming up with a liquid foundation version of this, because if you already like this, you are quite likely to also enjoy the performance of the liquid version. Of course, I now need to go out and have this worn for a full day just to get a feel for how it's going to look, how it's going to last, how it's going to sit and feel for maybe 7 or 8 hours. This does claim to last for 24 hours, of course. No one I know is going to wear their makeup for 24 hours. I'm not going to, so I will just check in a few hours' time at the end of the day. Ciao! Oh my god, it is warm. This is 8:08 p.m. I have been wearing this for about 9 hours now, and obviously I just sweated up a storm. So I'm gonna do my usual oil blotting test, and I'm just gonna lift up a little bit of the sweat right now first, because blotting sheets don't work that well when you have a lot of water on the surface of your skin. Okay, so this side is the cushion and this side is black foundation. 2 sheets. You know, there's surprisingly little oil on the blotting sheets considering how long the foundations have been on. I'm gonna take a closer look now with a hand mirror. Let me zoom you in a little bit to be able to see pretty close now. So this side is black cushion, and I have to say both sides look like they've managed to hang on pretty well. This side is black foundation. Now that I've removed the oil, it is back to being very matte. Probably slightly more matte than the cushion side. You can see a little bit of a glow or, you know, light bouncing back off my skin on this side of my face, whereas here it looks almost fully matte. A little bit of fading in the inner corners here, which is usual because this is a dry part of my face and it is subject to the most movement throughout the day. None of these are really creasing around this area where, you know, you smile and you emote a little bit more. So they have not creased at all, and nothing is smudging or looking cakey at this point. I am especially impressed because I did have a few dark marks, recovering spots on this side of my face. You can hardly see them, and it's been quite a long day so far. I did apply a little bit of my Chantecaille powder foundation over these areas just to help conceal them and mattify them a little bit more. But I've done this on top of other foundations before and they would just wear off in a few hours, and this one has held up perfectly. This probably suits my skin type a little bit better because I just need a little bit more moisture. But if you have oily skin to normal skin and you want something very matte but still not completely flat looking, you know, you want a little bit of a radiance or luminosity to your skin so it doesn't look completely dead or too fake and too made up, this is a really, really good option. Neither of these has oxidized through the day, so they are exactly the same color they were once they set and dried down when I applied them earlier today. I can see a little bit more texture around the more, you know, porous areas of my face just because, you know, the makeup coverage here is a little bit heavier than the rest of my face. But otherwise, everything's intact, everything is looking really beautiful, and I have nothing else to say. I'm even surprised at just how well these actually manage to control the oil production. For some reason, my skin seems to produce a little bit less oil with these than on the day that I was testing the Super BBs from Maybelline. I had a lot more oil on my face at the end of the day, and I wore these for about the same amount of time. I did not touch up with more powder. I did not blot my face today with blotting sheets. So this is the wear of the foundation and the cushion. All around, very impressed. I love both of these. I might personally reserve this for use on days where I know I'm going to be photographed, because sometimes a slightly more matte finish gives a better result for hot photography. But for daily wear, I personally prefer the cushion. Of course, it would be different if you have slightly oilier skin than me. This could be a perfect daily foundation for you. It is very comfortable. It doesn't feel heavy on the skin. It doesn't leave cracks. You know, when you smile, it stayed very, very flexible around my laugh lines and expression lines. Of course, do take note that I did not apply a ton of powder over this. I always find that if you set a matte foundation with too much powder, you cause it to crack and crease a bit more throughout the day, as in the formula suddenly becomes less flexible on top of the skin. So I don't recommend that for anyone. Otherwise, I love it. I mean, cost-wise, $75 for a high-end foundation that performs this well, I think is very, very worth the money. And I also love the fact that if you prefer the cushion, you don't have to pay a premium for it. The only gripe I would have, is the usual. They don't have enough shades for deeper skin tones. But otherwise, I mean, if you are fair to medium and you can find a shade, and you are very likely to find a shade in the Hera Black Foundation range if you are fair to light and medium, because they have so many different undertones, then I highly, highly suggest checking this out. So that is it for my foundation review today. I hope you found it helpful. I am still just really impressed with how it looks. I am still sweating right now. I'm completely drenched because I just spent about 30 minutes doing some last minute shopping and then walking back from the stations. So this is just amazing longevity on the skin. If you need to be out for a full day and then you need to go out for drinks or a dinner after work, choose one of the black foundations, because this looks so perfect right now. Even though I lifted off some oil, it didn't really look like my foundation was breaking down, or that I had like a film on my face. It just looked like I had a light layer of sweat. As always, I hope you found this helpful, and if you're curious to try out the black foundation, if you've already tried it out, let me know what you think. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!